Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Future by Design webinar series. I'm excited today to be in Gstaad, in the Swiss Alps with Net Jacobsson, talking about the future of adventure capital. And we really created a Future by Design webinar series to be live each month and talking about a vision of what we would like to be like in the next 20 years. Imagine waking up in the year 2042. What do you want to see? I'm excited to hear about what you would like to see, Net. And a quick introduction. So you will have seen Net's extensive bio as you registered for us here. But Net is an early Facebooker, passionate mountain biker, entrepreneur and investor at Stoked Capital with deep and rich experience in building and scaling startups globally. He's invested in over 80 early stage companies around the world, interested in cyber, metaverse, blockchain, data science, life sciences, and digital health. Previous companies include Facebook, King Advisor, P1, TanTan, Maxthon, ICQ, AOL, and SonyEricsson, and some successful exits with Facebook, OpenFeint. I probably haven't pronounced that correctly. CrowdStar, TanTan, and many more amazing companies that you're working on at the moment as well that I'm excited to hear about. So welcome, Net.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me here in this beautiful place.
We have actually been in Switzerland for 6-7 days now.
Yeah, something like that.
And it's just very, what's the right word that I'm looking for? It's great they're actually talking about adventure capital because we've been on quite the adventure.
Exactly.
The Crypto Finance Conference, we've been here with Actai, we're now in Gstaad, we've been up on the mountain today, we've been skiing, we've been snow riding, we've been having adventures. And it's amazing to see the conversations and I guess the catalyzing conversations to be able to change the world. And I think I'm going to be definitely coming home inspired. Yourself?
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's absolutely fantastic time here. A great group of people that have a very common interest besides interesting being an entrepreneur, but also doing something meaningful, for the world, for each of each other.
So I'm going to ask you firstly for a key learning from this week, but then I'd love to delve into your past, the present, and then what you see the future is like. So is there one key learning from this week?
One key learning.
Only one.
Only one. That the people you hang out with and associate really matters. And I think that I have been part of this loose kind of organization called Actai that combine some of brilliant entrepreneurs, investors, artists, environmentalists, and conservators together, but also have this common passion together for action sport and mostly kite surfing, but surfing and ski and water sports and mountain biking and so on. And for 2 years, when we have been disconnected from each other, not being able to meet face to face, it's amazing how suddenly I feel like life came back and all these connections that I was trying to keep on, contacted with online. It's just totally different when you get together into the same room or you're hanging out together and not planned, just random serendipity. I would say serendipity in full power. That's what's happening here. Yeah, good stuff.
It's amazing to talk about proximity all the time and, the average sum of the people that you hang around. And I think I also forgot about that the last few years in Australia. We haven't been able to travel and you almost come back into this environment and you're immersed and the emotions come flooding back. And you think about the emotions of traveling and doing adventures with people. I think adventures are actually great because you're out of your comfort zone.
So.
And we have kite surfed at Necker Island together. We've had lessons there and we've been up in the mountains today. I haven't been mountain biking with you yet. Tell me a little bit about your mountain biking.
Yeah, no, I mean, I got dragged. Actually, it started by Bill Ty, my good friend and mentor for many years, who is a kite surfer, and he had this blog called Kite VC, and he calls his Instagram is Kite VC, his Gmail is Kite VC. And he tried to teach me kite surfing for 15 years ago, but I almost disappeared straight up in the sky and he caught me last minute. And I said, I'll stay on the ground for a while. But I wanted to do something else and I got dragged into mountain biking and it just started to gradually take over my life. And so kind of a play on his Kite VC, I kind of rebranded it to like MTB VC, the Mountain Biking Venture Capitalist. And I just realized that, and more I started to integrate it into my life. So whenever I had meetings or business meetings somewhere, I made sure, like, where can I ride? Where are the cool trails? Who can bring me there? And I got to know new people, new friends, not necessarily in the same business, even just riders. And we had a good time, and I got to see the places. And it became more and more. So in the beginning, I was looking for where I could ride when I was doing business. Now I'm looking, where can I ride? And also, by the way, maybe there will come something good out of it, like a business, or I will meet somebody. But the riding became the central part of how I planned my life. I want to ride in Portugal. I want to ride there in Utah. And then I say, okay, who can I meet there? Who is in the area that I can meet? And somehow this magic, Bill tells this also several times, of, the serendipity of when you're getting into something you really feel passionate about, something that drives you, and suddenly you just run into like-minded persons, and stars are aligned, and just great things comes out of that. And even if not the best things come out of that, you had a good time, and you didn't waste your life in a conference room or at a panel somewhere where you really didn't want to go.
Actually, it is the diversity of people as well, isn't it? We were having lunch today, and there was a neuroscientist there, there's VCs, there's a very broad range of people. We have artists. We've had some inspiring talks in the last couple of days, and one of them was from an NFT artist, she just brings so much flair. And I think that just diversity of people that are around and having these conversations, there's only one thing every now and then that needs to spark that will change your tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And so that was something really cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's we had just lunch up here in the mountains behind, and beside me, I'm sitting beside a brain surgeon who is a top snow kiter, and on the other side sits, yesterday the same table we had a top dentist, and it's like a funny group, and you would have never thought about those professions separately, connecting with action sport. But the way I got to know them was actually in their field as in action sport, and I didn't even know what they were doing until afterwards, and then these all conversations coming out of that, and just a great group of people.
So tell us a little bit about your past and your history, and
Sure.
and even some key moments that adventure has actually led to really incredible conversations and business happening.
Yeah, so actually I came from a background, my parents didn't study, both of my parents were hairdressers, and none of them were academics, and I was basically the first one who decided to study. Nobody encouraged that. But before that, I started studying quite late. I was a bird watcher, a cab driver, a lorry driver. I cleaned windows. I studied forestry, and I was a forestry worker working in the forest, cutting down big trees for like 2 years in Sweden. And then eventually, and I traveled a lot, and I had this moment of change of direction when I was visiting Israel, and I just realized, hey, all these young guys and girls, they're so motivated, they're so direct, they know what they want, they know what they're doing. And I just every time I come back from my travels, I realized I come back, but I'm still in the same place, nothing advanced. And so that drove me to, it's like, okay, I will start studying now. And so I started to study, and I got stuck in university for 8 years. I was studying philosophy, and I studied medieval Jewish philosophy, and I studied Middle Eastern studies, and eventually decided, okay, a little bit more direction here. And so I took 2 degrees in psychology, and so my background is actually psychology, and focusing a lot of basically figure out what makes us tick, what motivates us, what do we pay attention to. And but I was then studying in Sweden, where at the Lund University, where Ericsson or Ericsson Mobile Communication had their development center. And I realized, no, I don't really want to be a psychologist. I don't want to sit here and listen to people's problem every day. I have enough of my own problems. So I decided to go to Ericsson and suggest myself, because I had to write my thesis there. When I write my thesis, I might well do that something interesting and useful. And they said, no, it has nothing to do with technology, what psychology to do with what we are doing. And then a week later, they called me back, and they had like 2, 3, 4, 5 projects they wanted to discuss. And so you can say that I came in, I was rejected in the front gate, but I came in for the back door. And I started to do usability studies, studying how people are interacting with small devices at that time on screens. But also, when you're marketing something, so you have a new product and you put it out there, we learned that there are 2 or 3 attributes on any product or anything that helps us making a decision whether we like it or we want to buy it. So the key thing is to figuring out what are those 2 or 3 attributes. and then enhance that. And so that was basically my direction. But after a while at Ericsson, I realized there's no future here, and I left everything, moved to London, and saw an ad in a newspaper. Somebody needed help with business development, some Norwegian, Swedish wireless startup. Back this was 98. 99, and I joined them. I started to do business development for them, and was the first internet boom, so to speak. Did that for 1-2 years, moved to Israel, and got sucked into a number of startups, including ICQ, which was like the company who invented instant messaging. And so I ran all the international business development for ICQ, and eventually went on to got involved in a Chinese browser company called Maxthon. And that's interesting because a friend of mine, he was the first, basically the guy who wrote the first check to the Skype guys when they'd been rejected by over 20 VCs. And he said, I found this little company in China, interesting browser. It was the same time as Firefox had just launched. And so we decided that, okay, let's get into it. And I came in to run the company basically, because it was basically 2 engineers or a few engineers. And did that for 3 years, and that's how I met Bill. Bill actually pitched me. I'm one of the few people actually was pitched by Bill, and he begged to invest in my company. And that was really weird because I didn't think that that's how venture capital worked. But I actually had both Bill and his legal counsel kind of bursting out in tears when we actually decided that, yeah, you can invest in the company. And that was very emotional. And I say, okay, that's how you raise venture capital. You get the venture capitalists to cry and beg you to invest in your company. Obviously, that wasn't the best training for fundraising going forward in the future. But I did that for 3 years, and it was very intensive. I divided my life between Israel, Silicon Valley, and China. Most people actually thought I lived in China. And we went through some very interesting periods there, which is like a whole chapter in itself. But I got in contact with an engineer at Facebook in early days, because we developed the first browser for Facebook built in by default. So when you downloaded Maxthon, you had Facebook inside, so to speak. And that was just something we built up without their help, anything. I was in Palo Alto, and I told my friend, hey, I'm here, you want to have a cup of coffee? And one thing led to another. And before I knew it, I was recruited by the company. I had a final interview with Mark Zuckerberg. And I relocated to California to lead international business development for Facebook and mobile and some corporate development, because we were a small company at that time.
And you were very early with the mobile version of Facebook. You were sharing that you had half an engineer.
Yeah, we had half an engineer. Everybody told me, don't talk to Mark about mobile, because he doesn't think there's anything to do with mobile or Facebook. Facebook is a website. You cannot put a website on a phone. This was obviously before the iPhone was just released. But we had an engineer there who basically built an iPhone app for Facebook himself on the free time. He didn't tell anybody, and he's just like, okay, hey, I built this app, and then we launched that. Yeah. And that suddenly took it off, and that was one person's effort. And it worked. Yeah, one person's effort without any strategic thinking behind it, or even, let's say, approval by the top in the company. And that was amazing. And I saw how that took off, and then Facebook turned into a mobile first company. Now it's a Meta company, something else, but gone through a lot of changes. But a very interesting time, get to see a lot of, we launched new products every single week. A platform, so many things on Facebook, and it was an interesting time. And one of my key responsibilities towards the end was really trying to figure out a way for Facebook entering to China, because I had been spending a lot of time there. But I always recommended against that, because it was very complicated then, even more complicated now, and practically impossible. So yeah, a lot of stories.
That's a lot. It's a lot of experience and a lot of stories, and yeah, I'm always so inspired, and I learn something new about you every time we have a conversation. I'm really interested. You seem to, when we're talking about your past, have two really key phases, which is the pre-education and the jobs that you need to do, and then you ended up in this world that was actually changing very fast at the time, and with mobile and with things, with the startup world really from the 90s and 2000s. What was the transition that got you into stoked capital, or actually investing as opposed to going and building and running teams?
Yeah, actually, after Facebook, I kind of had an overdose of corporate America, I call it, but corporations. Facebook was no longer started, but was really this monster corporation. And obviously with that comes a lot of politics. And for me, I just realized I don't want to go through that again. I like the building phase. I like building new stuff and see that taking off. And I also didn't feel I wanted to commit to any one thing after Facebook because I was kind of burned out. And so I started to work with two companies in a mobile gaming space company, OpenFeint and CrowdStar in Burlingame. Actually, they were incubated by the same incubator called, what's the name, Web something, based in Burlingame. And both companies were acquired, like OpenFeint was acquired after 1.5 years, and CrowdStar took a little longer time, but was eventually acquired. And the founder actually of OpenFeint, Jason Citron, is the founder of Discord. And what was interesting, what we did there, and I was like really hands-on working on this. We developed the first social tools for iPhones when there wasn't really a community. So Jason was a gamer, I wasn't a gamer, but he just looked like, hey, I want to connect these gamers on the iPhone games so that they can chat with each other while they're gaming. And so he built the game and then say, hey, listen, okay, the game went well and it was popular and everything, but we'll actually build this tool. What if I let other gamers use this tool and we turn it into a platform? And so what we were doing together was basically hunting every single developer through the App Store, figuring out where they are, who they are, try to get them, convince them to put our tools there, and then launch them. And we grew very fast. And we created a self-serving portal and so on, some of the things that I've learned at Facebook when we launched several services there. And now I see when it started Discord, just amazing because it basically taken the same ideas, this community communicating, and they build a product basically for gamers, Discord. Turns out that they realized that Discord is used for so many other things. And this is now like massive like place for community, for communication. And every time they're discovering new ways of the way people are using Discord. And of course, our world, like the NFT worlds and crypto, are very active on Discord. So as a strategy to build community and share content. So yeah, that was like an amazing time. And then I got my first taste of, okay, you know what? I don't have to commit myself to one single company. I don't have to go there. I started my own company called Playhopper, a social game. I actually developed a social game for king.com. And we had these discussions at the beginning because they were like a traditional gaming platform, skill-based games, and they wanted to leverage social, but they didn't know how to do it. Eventually, they built Candy Crush, which was like this massive success.
My mom loves it.
Yeah. My mom.
Hey,
too.
Mom, Candy Crush. Thank this guy.
So they actually King they tried to convince me to join them, but they didn't want to join another company, and I didn't believe in it at that time, which was a mistake because at the end they went public for a massive valuation, and afterwards it went private and then was acquired again. So it's like they built and they just figured out how to do social afterwards in games. So fantastic. But I got a taste for, okay, you know what? I don't have to be 100% involved in everything, but I like to be involved in things where I feel I can contribute. In this place, I can contribute with that experience. In that place, I can contribute to that experience. And sometimes I just want to be part of it because it's so cool and I want to learn something new. And so I said, okay, that was before Facebook went public, and I didn't have any money to invest in anything. Actually, even in my Chinese browser company, I lost 6% of all my equity because I couldn't afford paying for the options when I left the company. So I just lost that opportunity. But you win some and you lose some. And so first I got involved getting equity for my time, like sweat equity. But then eventually after Facebook and so on went public, I could actually invest myself in some companies. I started a little bit here, a little bit there with things that interest me. I started a venture fund with a couple of partners called Spark Labs, and mostly focusing on Asia. And it was a partnership. We did it for 7 years, accelerators, helping to build up the Korean, South Korean, and a lot of Asian startup system, or like for startups and helping them. But I felt like, so many years I'm out there raising money for the fund, and then you have to negotiate with partners. Not all interests are aligned. And I saw so many great opportunities that they didn't like and they didn't turn down. I said, you know what? And frankly speaking, my more own investments actually perform better. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm going solo. I'm going alone. And plus, I was driven by the mountain bike. How I want to start my day by riding 2-3 hours, and then I will work. And that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
And do you think that the lifestyle and that flow, I can see you smiling when you start to talk about that. Do you feel that that actually makes you more passionate and able to leverage a lot more of your time to be able to impact more startups and more
Absolutely. I mean, in the beginning, you get people are laughing at you and say, like, and I still hear today, say, like, you know, do you actually do any work? Do you, like, I just see you biking all the time, and it's like, how can you? So listen, I am much more efficient and I get more things done today by working less. And there are several reasons for it. There's also the like mental health thing and physical health. You start the day off, or you have a like really good balance where you're actually out there, you're taking all the frustrations, all the problems, you're getting an adrenaline kick. And once I come back after riding, and I'm kind of like focused, I'm relaxed, nothing bothers me. The day started good anyway, whatever's going to happen is going to be good. But it also, the type of riding I do is pretty aggressive. And so you're taking risks. I live in taking risks with myself. I like put myself 100% into it, just like if you're a kite surfer, snowboarder, whatever. And it also aligns with, you know, being in a risk business. Like if you're, whether you're a startup, you're building, you're taking risks. As you're an investor, especially as early stage investor, you're taking risks. And I feel like if you have to live the risk, you have to have 100% skin in the game, so to speak. And so that's my way of doing it. And I just feel like for every year that goes, it just becomes better and better. And then coincidentally, or not coincidentally, as a result of doing that, I meet great people all over the world. There's this community that's starting to organically grow up. I know this guy there, I know that guy there. We were riding together here, and so on. And I mean, mountain biking is my passion, but I love also kind of being dragged a little bit into surfing. And I like the whole, and just hanging out with people doing similar kind of things. They're generally much more positive people, and better idea comes out, less, I would say, ridiculous in tribal fighting or BS that often happens in places and in smaller groups and so on, just because they're having a healthy lifestyle, they're out there and, you know, feeling good about themselves. So yeah.
I love Tony Robbins actually has a saying that life begins at the end of your comfort zone.
Exactly.
And I think that's that adventure, and you actually create bonds and with people. And we did a night skiing event, and there were some people that hadn't really skied before or snowboard, and they were really scared. We actually went up quite a large gondola to the top of a mountain, and then the restaurant was halfway down the mountain. And I love that community capital of the bonds you make when each other's, I think someone took 6 hours to come down the mountain, and there was, you know, others there helping and whatnot, and the bonds that you create when you're out of your comfort zone, I think is quite special.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's very important. You need to, in order to develop and not stagnate, you need to push yourself constantly. I mean, push your borders, whatever those are. That's the only way to learn something new and to continue. And I think that is super important. And actually, I was telling a story to somebody yesterday that people are asking me often, like, why are Israeli high-tech companies so successful? And so many people saying, you know, the traditional in the army, they learn the latest technology, intelligence units, but there is something much deeper than that. And that is the bond that is created between people who are in the same unit for 3 years, living through real life threats, building stuff, not because, oh, we should do this, it's not possible. There is nothing that's not possible. We have to do it. Our lives depend on it. So it creates this bond. And once these guys graduate, they come out and they say, well, I'm the expert of video coding. I'm an expert on this and cyber and so on. So it's like, maybe they work a little for a big company to get experience. And they said, you know what? I call my buddies that serve in the same unit. I know exactly how they are. We are a great team together, and we understand this technology. And then they raise some money and off they go. So that boot camp feeling, bond that is created between people, I think that's the most powerful thing. And that's also the biggest risk in early stage investing. You can have a great idea, you can have a great technology, and maybe the two founders don't know each other so well. Maybe they've met a little bit, or, you know, maybe 1 or 2 years here and there, but not under stress. So I've seen many companies with great ideas, great technology that has just crashed because two founders don't get along, because they get stressed. You're raising money, then it's like, who's going to be the CEO? Or the financial interest getting involved, but there are frictions, sometimes an ego thing, who is the front, somebody becomes a front figure, and the other one, jealousy is created from there. There's so many things there. And so that is kind of already in Israel. I know many of those things are kind of already dealt with before. We know each other, how we function under stress, therefore they can perform that so good. And so that's a fantastic way. And that's exactly what I'm saying, see here, like for instance, in the ACTI community. We are out snow kiting and doing stuff together. I don't even know what everybody's doing. I didn't know he was a dentist. I didn't know whether he was a surgeon, whatever. And we had this experience together. We're having fun together for several days and only afterwards, like, okay, what are you doing? What? But there's always some kind of intimacy and bond created from the beginning. And then the other things comes into it. It's not a superficial, let's say, networking where you're presenting each other and you try to impress each other with, what you have done and what you're building and who you know. But it's really what I think Bill called it, sweat working. Like, you're getting,
it's the new goal.
Sweat working, exactly.
Well, he actually talks about positive karma as well.
Exactly.
When you're actually doing this and, you actually need a karma deficit, he said, of, being able to help others and whatnot, because some of these sports like kiting, that, you actually, it's not a one person sport. It's, you do need someone to come and help you sometimes. And so it builds that community capital. Yeah. I've got so many questions for you. I don't know where to go next, but I will actually stick on this adventure side just quickly and ask you, is there any times that you've actually been stuck or like had a really risky situation that you're way out of your comfort zone and have gotten through and been stronger for it?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say it's the story of my life. I've always gone too far, too risky, and for my own good, but somehow been saved in the last moment under all kind of circumstances. So yeah, and so that's the way I function. And maybe it's not recommended for everybody.
I was going to say, is there anything that you can relate to business then?
You have to take calculated risks. There is, just like in action sports and mountain biking, or like our friend Nick Jacobsson, who jumps off all kind of places.
He actually jumped off the roof of the main house at Necker Island, which is a couple of 100 meters down into the water and over an island.
And the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, he jumped off that one. It's like crazy. So we're talking about this risk. It's like, that's crazy. So, but you know what? And I agree with this. It's kind of crazy, but it's calculated crazy. You know your capabilities. You know what you're capable of. You push yourself a little bit more in your comfort zone, of course, but you're not reckless. You just don't throw yourself out there. You know your skill set. I know I can handle these type of situations technically. Obviously, you're not 100% in control until you land, but you don't know what's going to happen. There's so many factors there that you can't control. But
like a little wind gust.
Exactly. You pretty much know yourself. And sometimes you get into trouble. Sometimes you get bruises. Sometimes you break something. In the best case, it stops there. But it's really about calculated risks. And so the more, of course, you gain experience, you learn more where your limits are. Okay, I push myself too much. I'll take a little bit, hold back, or things that, but it's calculated risk. And the same thing in venture capital. You don't just write a check to somebody because you get super excited. Well, actually, a lot of people do that too. Early stage, for instance. Oh, sounds great. They sold me from this idea, and then that's it. But with the experience, you start seeing patterns, and you're recognizing things. Okay, I know I probably lose. Biggest chances I'm going to lose all my money on 8 out of 10 investments. I don't know which ones those are. Some of them look like this is going to be the one, and it wasn't the one. And the one that you rejected and neglected is the one that suddenly comes out there. And like the saying said, the stone that the builder refused will always be the headquarters. Like, you didn't look at it, and there it comes. And so it's calculated risk, and you learn how to do that. And that's how it's in investing as well. But the way you can reduce risk or offset risk is by, and I think that's the biggest lesson that I have learned personally, is really, it's about the team, it's about the people. And maybe also because my background is psychologist, I think more about that. It's like in 2 minutes, I know who's sitting in front of me. Obviously, I know that I don't know everything about them, but I get this feeling, can I trust this person? Does this person have integrity? Integrity is the most important thing. People can be very charming. They can be fantastic. They build it. They know all kinds of people and so on, but you can't trust them. You feel like they're not trustworthy. And that's like, for me, number one. If I don't trust them, if there's no integrity, it doesn't matter how great, how skilled they are, I don't want to work with them. And so you learn, it's always about people. Who are the people, who are the persons? Because they are going, it doesn't matter what they do, because, you know, the guys who built the Twitter, for instance, they started out with podcasting. And I know the whole story. I know them from those days, and I know Bill, because Bill and George, who were investing in them at that day, they wanted to give back the money, because they say this podcasting doesn't go, and then they say, like, we'll take the whole, keep the money, do whatever, do something else. We trust you. We like you. We trust you. We think. And suddenly, this little project they have on the side, Twitter, turned into this massive thing. And so it was about trust. They trusted who these founders are, their capabilities, and it's all about that. You can pitch me fantastic technology, market opportunity, and so on, but all those things are equal for everybody else in that space. And the difference, it's, you know, who are the pilots? Who are they? How do they perform under stress? Are they going to be able to attract people that are better than themselves, which is key? The lower type of founders and CEOs, these are people who hire people that are less good than themselves, because they want to be, you know, they want to take the credit. They want to be the main guy. And that's something I learned. I saw with Mark, for instance, Zuckerberg. He always knew how to get the best possible talent. I don't understand this. I'm not going to settle for the second best. I'm going to do everything to get the best guy, the best woman in this space. And that's, so it's all, for me, it's all about the human connection. Everything else is secondary.
And we're hearing all the values from Wavia as well: human capital, financial capital, community capital. And I'd love to ask you about some of the projects that you're working on now. Mm-hmm. So we had a fantastic conversation at lunchtime about helping people and how we can actually learn from some of the Israeli tech scene of how you're doing things there.
So I've been fortunate to be a board member of a non-profit organization for volunteer first responders called United Hatzalah of Israel, and it's basically trained and educated first responders that are dedicating their free time, and they can respond. I think we reach everybody within 3 minutes, 90 seconds at any given time in Israel, and it's all non-profit. All the help is for free. They actually invented a whole idea of an ambucycle, a motorcycle that is actually an ambulance, where it's especially built for being able to quickly come to a place with a traffic jam and so on, but also know at every given point where each of the volunteers and their training, where are they, who is best, who is closest, because when things happen, it's about seconds or minutes. That's all what you have. And it's an amazing organization, over 6,000 volunteers. And anything from a CEO to a top company to a lorry driver, cab driver, somebody has a little corner sandwich shop, Arab women, Bedouins, Israeli Jews, Christians, all working together. And it's just a fantastic organization, because both technology, they leverage technology to do something really good, but also the bond and the community, the real community and family kind of like that is building, and it's actually saving hundreds of thousands of lives every year.
And how do you see some of this tech infrastructure can be rolled out in other places? I know Israel is leading the way in so many things, and we were having a conversation. I'd love to see something like that being available to Surf Life Saving in Australia, or being able to train and collaborate and help people save lives in all sorts of different ways with education. But it's really empowered by technology. Do you think that there's, I guess, a lot of these technologies that will eventually be rolled out across the entire world, and how long do you think that might take?
Yeah, I mean, I know actively today we already work with countries and governments and organizations in different countries outside of Israel. For instance, we have operations in New Jersey, we have, I think, Mexico City. We're talking to other countries ourselves, and there is a lot of inbound interest. But it's not only technology; it's technology with the know-how itself. The whole model needs to be really translated into also to the local culture. But it's definitely, discussions are taking place. Some of them are already happening, and they are definitely open and happy to share that model, because at the end of the day, and it's like you learn, it's an old Jewish saying that somebody who saves the world is thought of as, no, somebody saves a person's life, it's like he saved the whole world, because every person is like the whole world. And so the value of saving one person's life is so big that there is like nothing else secondary, like nothing close to it. And so it's a fantastic organization. Yeah.
That is really cool, and it's so promising. And I think even just coming on trips like this and hearing stories like that, it really inspires me. And sometimes we live in our own little world, in our own bubble. And I heard recently, and having studied psychology, you can probably correct me, but 80% of our thoughts are the same as yesterday.
Right.
And so how do we actually have different thoughts, different language, and start to see some of this? And definitely in Australia, we've been in lockdown pretty solidly for 2 years.
Sure.
So to be able to get out, and I was saying that 24 hours of flying time felt like freedom. But it is that out of your comfort zone, being in a meeting and having great conversations. I know I'm so energized to go back home, and how do we bring that energy from these trips as well back to our local communities and inspire others to think bigger and to be able to know that these projects are being worked on around the world.
Yeah, and I think like it's very popular today to talk about the metaverse, and I think that people are a little bit carried away today. I wouldn't love to live in the metaverse, but I see the metaverse as an extension of something I'm already doing and complementary to it. But I wouldn't want to live in a world where I'm spending more time in front of a screen. But it's really an extension, and the best maybe combination between the physical world and the virtual world, and obviously powered, through technologies like blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs that are kind of mushrooming or pushing that up in a very fast in a direction that we never thought would happen. So it's very exciting.
And you're working on an NFT project at the moment with some of the community members.
Sure.
What do you see as the vision and the NFTs and being able to remove the friction from sharing that as well? So I know a lot of people that want to create NFTs and they're not quite sure how and all of the rest. What do you see with technology in that space?
Well, today it's still a little bit kind of geeky. I mean, there are two ways. You can either download a piece of code and you can develop it yourself, but then you have to have a certain at least skill level as a developer or patience to learn that. And you can also upload through one of the sites and get it done there. But I'm seeing that that's still very early stage. It's going to be so much faster and easier, just like taking a photograph automatically. That's going to be integrated and boom, it's already minted inside, ready to share. And you don't have to think about all this extra stuff around. But I really think it's very. I mean, right now it's basically NFTs. It's like a JPEG with connected with a hashtag, like a block on the blockchain. And we can laugh at this, whether it's monkeys, whether it's bored apes, or whatever it is. So, but the potential for it is much bigger than that. And what I really love is how it empowers the creative community, especially artists who have all the time been suffering from not being able to live on their work, or creatives in general. And the whole thing of NFTs actually opens up a way for them to directly sell, interact, create marketplaces directly to people all over the world in a way that wasn't possible before. And it's just amazing. Now we spent like last week in St. Moritz, and we saw some of those some artists starting to create NFTs, and we had this auction there with UNICEF, and you see the power of it. And that's just like the beginning. We're just starting to scratch on the potential, but really it helps people, it empowers people to work with anybody they want in the world at their own, they decide themselves basically at their own terms, right? And so I think that's fantastic. We're just at the beginning, and this is going to become very, very big. Yeah. Music, art, normal art, video, the written word, many other things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's inspirational, and the UNICEF project as well with GigaConnect is quite inspiring. And to think about how many people and how many kids around the world are not connected to the internet yet. And Bill actually shared a stat that there's 3 billion people in the developed nations and 5 billion in developing nations thereabouts. And so you're looking at all of these people that are coming online at really fast internet connectivity in the next 5 years. And the GigaConnect project, they're actually mapping all of the connectivity of these schools in these developing nations, and over 1 million schools. And just to think that they don't know what they don't know. I don't know if anyone watching can think about pre-internet, that then when the internet was introduced, and I'll show my age, that you'd click on a web address and you'd hit go, and then it would take 5 minutes to load, and something would come up, and then you'd accidentally click a button and you go, oh no, because then that was going to be another 5 minutes for the next page to load. So that's definitely showing my age there. So the first experience that these these kids and these people in developed nations are going to have is at 5 gigabytes, 5 giga speeds, and it's going to be really cool to see what they can do. And then also the economic empowerment of them as well, of being able to create things on blockchain and be able to create content, so whether it be music or whatever it is, and mint it and photographs, and creating economic opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back, like in the beginning of the internet, and like everybody talking about the protocol like TCP, IP, and so on, who remembers today? Who even thinks about those things today? It just happens in the background, right? The same thing is going to be a lot of things powered by blockchain. We're not going to talk about blockchain. It's just like we don't talk about TCP, IP. We're not talking about the blockchain, these protocols. It doesn't matter. It's just integrated in new products, new apps, technology we're using. Nobody will think about it. It's totally natural. We're all excited about it today, but it's going to be, nobody's going to talk about it tomorrow.
I could talk all day, and I know, I said, oh, let's go and have a talk for half an hour, 45 minutes or so, and while we're here in the start, and I really want to get to your vision of the future of what you see that it will be like, and I want to say 20 years. Because sometimes when we think about the future, we think, oh, this would need to happen, and practically what would need to happen for it to be like in 5 or 10 years. And so just imagine you've just woken up and it's 20 years in the future, it's 2042. How would you like to see it? What does it look like for you?
Well, I mean, I really believe that and also kind of my own life I've been living and going more that direction, is really like empowering individuals to be who they are, work for whoever they are, live wherever they want. And regardless of race, social, economic class, or whatever. And I think that we're starting to see that this is possible through the world of crypto, tokenization of things. Once you worked for a company, like what is a company? It's just a couple of agreements but why should you work for a company? Why should anybody work for anybody? Why should we not work on equal terms with each other and cooperate with whom we want? So the decentralized organizations is something that I'm very excited about. People are working and being paid over crypto, and their work is being seen. They are working with whatever, somebody in Cambodia, in Cuba, in Sweden, Silicon Valley, it doesn't matter where you are, as opposed before, you have to be inside the headquarters, and you have to sit there, and there's all these corporate agreements, and you can't say this, you can't say that, but like really let people be who they are, live their, let their personalities shine through, and work with whomever they want under whatever circumstances there, and make money, and not having to live in a big city, pay a lot of money to send kids to school because it's more expensive there, spend 3 hours commuting back and forth every day. That's a waste of human capital. I mean, that's really it's waste of life, and life is the most important asset we have. So
I love it, and I'm going to have a few follow-up questions now. Do you think if everyone in that kind of environment and working with purpose and passion and being able to do what they would like when they like, from wherever they like, do you think we'll actually self-actualize a lot quicker? And do you think more people will self-actualize and want to give back, and almost like Maslow's hierarchy of needs of, we'll have our base needs met and the world will be better?
I think so. I mean, I have a darker side look at human personality, because I don't think that humans actually change. Humans are all the time the same, whether it's 200 years ago, 500 years ago. There will always be people wanting to take advantage of others. There will always this component of being in power, not power, the weaker taking advantage. All those things, I don't think that change fundamentally, but I really think that, yes, the self-realization is going to be possible. It's going the right direction, because if you can really be free and do whatever you want to do, and you're also contributing to society at the same time, that's what can be better than that. And that in itself, people being more satisfied with their lives, what they're doing with their lives, maybe will turn them into better human beings. Like, we will be better because we'll be more satisfied with us. And usually a person who's happy with his life also can give more to others, whereas a person who's not satisfied typically don't want other people to succeed either. And so maybe that will drive us in that direction. Maybe.
Yeah, we can hope. Do you have a final thought to share with our audience?
No, I really just feel like it's so important to be physically active in something, to be outdoors. We're spending so much time inside, especially since the corona, we are sitting in front of Zoom more, our kids in front of Zoom more. Most of our work is connected to the screens, but don't forget, we live in a fantastic, wonderful world out there, and we don't explore it enough. So whether it's hitting the trails on a mountain bike, riding, canoeing, kite surfing, go out and do that. If you don't do it already, try to do it. Try to get out of the gym. Don't stay in a gym. Gym is also inside, in front of a screen maybe. Just like go out there, connect with nature, come back and feel fresher and look at things and become more creative as a result of it. That's what I wish for, and I think that's why these gatherings and this group is so unique, because I really think it's there.
Wonderful. Nat, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for inspiring us to create that future by design. And like you say, get out and about. Work from anywhere has been our message. And we are in Gstaad here in Switzerland. So thank you for joining us. Yeah, see the mountain there. We've got the beautiful view. Actually, check out that view there. We should have had the camera like that, but we got there.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you. Thank you.